and welcome to Who is Blank. I am joined by Jack. How are you today?
Hi Sinead, I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on, and I'm very excited to talk about your new EP. I've had a
It's
little
exciting to be
listen.
here. Thank you
I'm
for
in love.
having me.
So, I thought we'd start off with how did this project start? Did it start off with the intention of becoming an EP or just kind of messing about and seeing, oh, this could be something?
Such a great question. It definitely, yeah, it's a great question because it didn't really start off with anything in mind. I was in lockdown, and I my heart was ripping apart. I was seeing someone at the time, and as as some people were doing long distance in that time, it was really tough, and I just really needed to write about it and get it out. So I was talking to a long friend of mine. We've been friends for a couple of years, and he had just been doing a lot of music recently, and I was really inspired by what he was creating. And I was like, "Hey, like, should we just do a Zoom session?" And so we just wrote a song together over Zoom. Um, which is crazy that here we are on
Yeah.
Zoom. But nothing's changed really. And I didn't really plan on making an EP at the time. I just wrote about how I was feeling. Um, and then slowly I was like, this song, Breathe, which was the first song we wrote. I was like, this one's special, and I'm saving this for a special project, a special time. And here it is, coming out on Friday.
It's very exciting. I was very excited, bloody like, oh, do you want to listen to it? I was like, yes, please. I will listen to it. I'll listen to anything. And I love
Oh,
it. And like
that's
as I was
awesome.
listening to it, I was like, it kind of has, I find that with projects that are like focusing around like growth and like growing up, they always have kind of a classic feel because like everybody at some point can always relate to this. Always going to be somebody. So like you said you started writing in lockdown, which is like so long ago now. So do
Yeah.
you like, is it weird?
2021.
Yeah, like it's crazy. So like is it weird for it to be coming out on Friday and you're like, I wrote that so long ago, started it so long ago. Do you relate to any of the songs or is like, oh my God, I was feeling like that?
Yeah, it's such a mix. I feel like I've been playing it live for so long, and
Hmm.
everyone when I play that song live are like, when's that one coming out? So I'm excited to have it out in a way. I do feel like when I'm playing it live, I do healthily access parts of that emotion because I think it's
Hmm.
important. It's important for me to tell the story in the right way. And it all, I was talking to someone about it recently for an interview, and I was choking up talking about the
Oh
story
my
behind
God.
it. And I think even 3.5 years later, it still struck a chord with me and the meaning behind the project. And yeah, yeah. So I think it's still very much, even though I wrote it a while ago, it still hits, which I think it shows to me that it's a song I really care about. You know.
That like you can tell when I was listening to it and like properly like taking in the lyrics and everything that the lyrics like the only way I can describe is like they're so rich. Like there's so much going on, especially like in Just a Dog. It's like you can picture everything that's happening through those lyrics. And I think it's amazing. I think people are gonna love it.
Thank you so much. I had to work really hard on it, and I appreciate it for being seen.
Um, is there any artist or albums that inspired kind of the sound or like your lyrics, even
Mm.
in general as an artist, not just for this EP?
Yeah, of course. I absolutely. I've been really inspired by Haim,
Hmm.
their album "Woman in Music" Part Three. Uh, why is that not won a Grammy? I don't
Yep.
get it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's fresh. It feels. Um, Someone told me recently that they sound a lot like Sheryl Crow. And I
Hmm.
realized inadvertently I'd been referencing a lot of Sheryl Crow, who is stunning, incredible. Also, Clairo, Biba Doobie,
Hmm.
Remy Wolf, Lana Del Rey, Mitski, all the greats in alt pop. So, um, yeah, working with some of the people on the project who have, you know, had their hands on some of that, it was crazy to me. So, um, full circle, you know.
Just getting to work with people who've like you said, worked with the people that you've just referenced. You're like, oh, it's my turn now.
Yeah. No, completely. It's really inspiring, and the fact that they like the music as well, and I feel very supported. So, very, very lucky.
When I quickly want to talk about the title of this EP, because when I
Hmm.
saw the title of the EP, I'm gonna make sure I get it right. When I'm feeling
Yeah.
better, we can dream together. Like
Oh
that.
yeah.
That's crazy. Like, and I've always wondered as a fan and as like an interviewer, how do you come up with titles, like even if it's just for like a song or like the EP or an album? Like, how does a title come to mind? Is it the title, then the art, or the art becomes the title, if that makes sense?
Mm, completely. I think for me, like I always focus on the world that that it's in, you know,
Hmm.
sonically, visually, um, you know, it's a world for me when I make music. And my last project was called Why Don't You Come Over? And then the project before was called This Dream I Had.
Hmm.
So this title was a lyric from Breathe, the song we talked about earlier, and basically, again, I'm going to get emotional, but basically, during writing that song, I had a dream about this person I was seeing, and I was so shitty in the dream. Do you ever have a dream and you were like, why
Hmm.
was I mad at this person? What was going on? And I realized that when I woke up the next day, I was like, oh, I was feeling some weird way about it. And I realized that uh, lockdown was taking a big toll on my mental health.
Hmm.
And that was kind of where the lyric came from was when I'm feeling better, we could dream together. And it's kind of the idea of like, well, I don't want to dream. When I dream of you, I don't want to feel so far away from you and feel so separated. And it's kind of the collective thing of like, we're in this together as well. But sometimes timing's just not right,
Hmm.
you know, and there's things out of your control, like a lockdown or whatever. And I think it like encapsulates, I hope, at least hope. And I think with each track, there's hope in some way, in some form, and that that lyric just made sense to me as the title, and it feels like in the same form of the other projects before, but also fresh and new in its own way.
It seems like you said it kind of merges your last two, but says, this is where I'm at now, this is how I'm feeling and how I've progressed. And I think it's an amazing title. Like when I saw it, I was like, that insane. Like it's a title that's gonna like stay in your mind.
Mhm. That's
Like
very true.
do you have like any albums or songs where like you just have like a title in your head, like even from like other artists, you're just like, that's insane.
Sky Ferreira, My
Hmm.
Time, Nighttime, or other way around. And it's just like the bravado on that is so strong, and it encapsulates it so well. Like Arctic Monkeys, AM, um, Lana Del Rey, Ultraviolence,
Hmm.
um, you know, like Norman F. and Rockwell. Just like yeah, and also I don't know if you listened to Mitski's album
Hmm.
last year, I think, or the year before. The land is inhospitable, and so are we. I'm like, what the hell?
It's
It's
crazy.
crazy. I love it when artists take a chance in that to say something, make a
Hmm.
statement. Because in the way, like in the way of you making music, you are creating a world, and it's an opportunity to do something cool with it.
Definitely. So you've moved to London. Got that right, didn't I? How
Yeah,
has being in London affected kind of your writing or your songs or your sound at all?
totally. Great question. It has, because when I first made this project, I was really nervous about I couldn't write sad anymore. And I think it stemmed from being in lockdown. and
Hmm.
listening to a lot of sad music. I remember listening to Remy Wolf's album. What is the album name? Um, anyway, it's a great, colorful, incredible album, and I was like, wow, this is it. This is happy. This is bright. This is fun. Um, and then I just couldn't write sad. I just didn't. I couldn't bring myself to write sad or listen to sad music anymore. And that stemmed for quite a few years. And then it came to winter last year in London, my first winter, and that's when I wrote Just a Dog. And you can kind of hear it, and I think if you listen carefully, you can really tell that it's like the middle of winter. It's like it's like a gloomy day kind of vibe. And I think from there it kind of made me realize that I can kind of access that darker side of my sound, which or at least melancholic, that I'd kind of been hiding for a little bit. I think just for my own well-being and growth as a person. And I think now I'm making music that's not afraid to really access that anymore. So future music will be hopeful, but also I'm not going to censor myself, you know?
Yeah. That when I was listening to EP, it was kind of like the perfect balance between like the sadness and the hopeful. Like I
Mm,
found that especially the first track, Changes,
mm,
it like and Breathe like really like the first and last track really were like really hopeful, kind of like it's gonna be okay. Like it might be a bit rubbish, but it's gonna
mm,
be okay. And then it kind of sandwiched in between the two kind of like darker feelings, which I loved.
completely. No, that's so right. And it was kind of intentional. I think even if I wrote about something sad or hard, they needed to have a celebration. So for changes, like I still wanted it to feel like euphoric and hopeful and uplifting. I think Just a Dog is like a different story, but it still has a celebration at the end. You know, it's still like has an outpour and an outburst, and yeah, I think I tried to like go with the feeling, you know, and really encapsulate that feeling. And maybe it's a feeling for whatever anyone else is going through. There's a different song in there for someone.
What is your favorite song from the EP? Does it change or has it always kind of stayed the same?
You know what's funny is it always ends up being the one that's not yet released.
Hmm.
And I think it's because for me, until it's out on Friday, this is still my baby. This is,
Hmm.
no one else really has a copy. Not many people can hear it or find it anywhere. Um, and so this one will be hard to let go because I've had it for 3.5 years. Um, so at the moment, Breathe's my favorite. And people around me that have listened to the project, that it's a standout for them as well, which is so interesting to me. Because it's not a single, but it is a single.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I think Breathe probably.
Do you think it will change? Like, how is it as an artist when you've got a project for so long? It's just yours. You've just shown it's like your
Mm.
closest people, and then it's like out to the world, and anyone and everyone can listen to it. What does that feel like?
I think it's the thing for me is I think that I've spent so long trying to create this world, and I don't think people will fully understand the depth of thinking that goes into it behind the artwork, behind the title. People will just listen to it straight off the bat without listening to or thinking about the reasoning behind, for example, the title lyric, where it even comes from, and the intention behind it. So I think for me, that's always like understanding that people will take the art and do what they want with it, and that is like probably the hardest to let go of. But in a way, it's also freeing because it makes you be able to continue working on something new. And for me, I'm currently working on stuff because that's how I get through this release period. So, um, yeah, I'm really lucky to have support around me during release days because it's kind of like a birthday. It feels like a birthday. I don't know how else to compare it to.
No, that's what I was gonna ask. It must feel like a weird like birthday or kind of
Mhm.
Christmas, but like it's so individual to you that it's like no one else is gonna know that like you're
Yeah,
gonna be releasing something. So just like
completely.
nobody knows. I'm just walking around with this and nobody knows.
And no one fucking knows. So funny, yeah.
Do you have a song that you're excited to play live? And like obviously you're playing London, you're going to Australia, then you're going back home.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going, do you think because you're going to like three very different places and such, do you think they're going to react or have a different favorite one?
Oof. We'll find out. We'll find out. I think Breathe is always great to play live because I think people underestimate the outro.
Mhm.
And when it blasts, when I play it with my band and it like it feels really big and it feels really powerful. Um, we've also got a cover in the set, which I will not reveal yet. But for those listening, if you come on the 19th of March, next Wednesday, um, yeah, it's a pretty fun cover. I'm excited to play. So that might be a standout as well.
What is it like when like obviously you create these songs and then you get to play it live and you're hearing it live and you're seeing people react to it.
Mm.
And like you also see people like singing along. Like that must be like so weird. You're like, how do you know this song? Like that's mine. I was like,
It's kind of crazy. It's really cool seeing people's reaction. I think as well, when creating new music, I always love to put one or two new ones in there, which people have never heard.
mhm.
And it's great. There's no better way to gauge people's reactions than seeing it live, and that's really powerful. Yeah, I love playing Ski Lift live because a lot of people sing it back to me, and that's really special. And same with Changes. It's kind of anthemic, and people just sing it back, and it doesn't get old. I have to say, no matter what happens, I don't think it will ever get old.
Have you ever had like a moment where you're on stage and you're like, oh my God, this is actually my job. People like I get to do this. Like what's that like as an artist when you first step on stage and you're like, oh, they've all come for me. And you're like, that's crazy.
I think I need to get better at not being. I feel like an imposter syndrome. I'm
hmm
like they're here for the opening act. Like it's always yeah, I remember playing my first sold out Auckland show and um just being like, wow, that was crazy. That was cool. And it was just so intimate. And when we played Ski Lift, everyone sat down with me and it was like, wow, this is kind of cool. And it is yeah, it is really beautiful. Yeah, but I think I need to get better at my imposter syndrome. But I think it's quite common, I think. So,
it must be like a very weird feeling because you're like, okay, I've created these songs. And like you don't really think much of it, and then it comes to release, and then also you play them live, and you're like, oh, I've actually got to play them to people now.
mhm. No, that's it. Yeah, it is. It's very strange. But it's fun. I love it. It's good fun.
Do you prefer like the making of the project or do you prefer once it's out and you get to
Mm.
obviously go on the roads?
It's a mix. They're two different beasts. For me, my comfort zone is being in the studio. I'm a creator. Growing up, I was very much a performer. As a kid, I just apparently just loved it. And it's interesting because as I had gotten older, I think I was more of a recording artist. And I have really re-accessed that part of myself where I really enjoy being on the road. So it's hard, I think both are just such different beasts, recording and going on the road and releasing it. But for me, I always feel creatively very satisfied in the studio because it's an outpour, it's an output from there. So it always means a lot.
It must be like nice to have a space where you can just get everything out. I feel like songwriting is a very therapeutic kind of way. And I feel like lyrically as well, but also like sonically, because literally make how you're feeling sound, and that's like insane to me.
It is.
Like,
It blows my mind too when I work with someone and they get what I'm going for. Oh my God, it's better than any therapy session. I'm kidding. I mean, I thoroughly believe in therapy. Um, but it's up there, you know. It's I think working with a producer is like dating. You got to find the right match.
mhm.
And when you find the right match and you can speak the same creative language, it's like unbeatable. You know, it's a pretty cool feeling.
I always ask, especially like I tend to talk to smaller artists, and how is it going from just being in your bedroom by yourself creating this music, and then you get to go into a studio with like a team or like a couple
Mm.
people, and like you said, they know, like that must be so weird, like they know exactly what you want, and you're like, how did you know that?
It's crazy. When I first started, my first manager, she was like, "You need to go into writing sessions," and like, and I was really apprehensive. I was like, "No, I write myself." And then I started writing with people and teams who get everything, and it all comes from here. Like it all comes from me. But the thing I realized is my ego got in the way to think that just because I did it myself, it would sound better. If you look at Beyonce, she has like eight, nine writers. Um, but if I have like one co-writer in the room, it's really crazy to see the elevation it can actually bring, and it makes the product better. And I feel like that's what matters, you know? So yeah, it's really interesting world.
Just getting to like work with other people, and because you can do, if you work with other people, do you feel like you can kind of separate the personal aspect of what you're writing about, or does it help you kind of get it out more?
Some of the best writers are literally therapists. They just listen and like take what you're saying and understand it deeply and work with you to put it into poetry. And it's just like super cool. It's super cool. I think the more honest you are, and that's who I am as a person, is I'm pretty open. So I feel like for in the studio, it's we cut the crap pretty easy, straight to what feeling and stuff, and it's quite cool. It's cool.
You can feel it on the album that you are someone who kind of like just gets it out, and I think that makes for a better piece of like art, because someone my art isn't going to be going through the exact same thing, but they could relate to different parts to it. And I
Hmm.
think when artists are just so out with it, say like this is what's going on, I think it can be a lot more relatable in that way.
Completely. I think sometimes I'm like, do I go too overboard? Should I just make something like nonchalant, But it's just not who I am, I guess, as a voice, and I need to understand that my voice is my voice, and it doesn't mean that I can't listen to. I feel like maybe it's just more that the music I make is for a setting and a feeling and things, and serves its purpose, and it doesn't mean that someone can't listen to something else for a different purpose. So
Was it like when people like you can like see when people have been like physically like, I don't know if affected is the right word, but like they can
mm,
physically feel the song and seeing their emotion, and like knowing that you can like make someone else feel like that, that must be like a wild
mm.
experience.
It's so wild to me because I write for myself. I don't. No offense, audience and fans, but I don't often write for them. I write for me, and it just so happens that everyone gets to hear it. And I remember hearing from one of my partners, one of his friends was um, I shouldn't laugh, but I'm laughing more than I'm telling the story. Um, but her cat passed away, and she listened to Changes to get through it. And
Wow.
yeah, it was just, and she lives in a niche part of America, so I could see the stats on how many times it was being listened to. It was a lot. And but that was more why I'm laughing, is because it wasn't my intention to be able to console someone going through something else, and being able to do that is, again, it's the imposter syndrome of, but it's really, really powerful, and it's such a privilege.
What are you most excited about with the release of this EP? Is it something special that you're excited for?
I'm excited to have it out and go on tour and get back in the studio. Um, and I'm excited to see what 2025 brings, really.
Well, thank you very, very much. If you want to quickly shout out your socials, your Spotify, everything where people can find you.
Of course, thank you, Sinead, for having me. I'm Jack Panther. You can find me on Spotify under Jack Panther. Socials, I'm all at Jack Panther Music. And if you want to come to my London show next week, it's on Wednesday the 19th at Servant Jazz Quarters. You can find out on my socials.